Everyone experiences challenges in life, and there are going to be times when you feel like giving up. Let me share the secrets to success through adversity. Deaf from birth and challenged in many ways, I learned to look at life differently and found success. Life will never give you cotton candy, so stop looking for it. Join my podcast and learn the secrets of success through adversity. Stop making excuses and start taking action. I'm your host, Jordan Levin. Welcome to All Good Things Start With You. Welcome to Jordan Levin Daily. Welcome to All Good Things Start With You. I have David here with me, and David is going to share his story with us and his journey of being diagnosed with cerebral palsy since birth, highlighting many struggles in the education system and successes as a former sport athlete, 3-time state champion cyclist, and currently a middle school teacher with CP. He shares his stories with others around the world to show that there is a light among all the challenges behind it. Welcome, David. It's an honor to have you on the podcast.
Thank you. I appreciate it. And of course, we are collaborating today. So this is Jordan. He's a podcaster, a motivational speaker, owner of a CrossFit business, wake surfer. And also I'd like to mention that his podcast is called All Good Things Start With You. So I'm looking forward to learning about his journey, how he's overcome all these obstacles despite his impairment. And we're just going to have a good time. I'm excited.
Absolutely. Absolutely. This is a very unique situation that we can both be on this together and share our stories.
To kind of start out, give me a brief rundown of your diagnosis. How were you diagnosed with your hearing impairment?
So when I was born 3 months premature, 11 inches and 31 ounces. This was back in 1976, where this was before they tested for hearing. During those first 4 months of my life, I was in a hospital on a respirator, and during those 4 months, I had many complicated, potentially life-ending surgeries. Doctors only gave me a 10 chance of survival. And through those long, rocky 4 months, obviously, I made it. However, to fast forward just a little bit, because doctors told my parents that I might not be able to walk, I might not be able to speak, I might have some physical disabilities. But what happened was my parents were so focused on my physical development that perhaps they missed the hearing portion of it. So they did not find out about my hearing loss until I was 2.5 years old. So for most kids or babies at that age are already hearing and possibly speaking at that age. Well, I wasn't. So when we found out about the hearing loss, my parents were obviously very devastated. And they were like, okay, well, what do we have to do? What are my options? And that kind of began the journey of what's the best route for me to go. And my parents chose to teach me how to speak and listen. And obviously that was a very long journey from that day forward.
That is awesome. The fact that your parents were willing to find any way that they could to help you, especially with nowadays you have so much adaptive technology and assistance that for you it makes it easier to just go about life. And I know you growing up, it must have been slightly difficult to just go through life knowing that you have not one diagnosis but two diagnoses, and then And then to kind of go on that, how was it growing up with you? Did you struggle in school? Was school normal for you? Did you have a lot of friendships?
I love, and I appreciate that question because I, interesting enough, I was 17 when I was diagnosed as being ADHD. So growing up in school was very, very difficult because not only was I ADHD, but I did not have any understandable speech, and yet alone I wasn't able to hear. So the formative years of schooling was quite complicated. And the best way to put this in perspective, you've got this little boy sitting in a classroom trying to read lips with the teacher, but if the teacher turned their back to write something on the blackboard, I would never get it. So my parents came up with the concept of at the end of each day after school, my mom would say to the teacher, "Hey teacher, what did you guys do today?" And she would write everything down word for word and everything that we did in the school. We would then go home. My dad would come home from work, and my mom and I, the three of us, would sit down and go over every single thing that was taught in that classroom again and again and again until I was able to comprehend what was being said. And that was just my elementary school experiences. Now, to answer the question about friendships, I was basically pushed into the wolves. I was pushed in to kind of adapt in be one like everybody else. I was taught from the very beginning to be assimilated into regular schools. I mean, I went to uh, regular elementary, middle school, and high school, and I still have my core group of 5 friends that I've had ever since elementary school. And if you were to ask those group of friends how I was, is they didn't treat me any different than anybody else. I was just one of the boys hanging out. And I never asked for them to treat me any different. And that was the whole point of what my parents wanted me to not think of my disability as a disability, but to think of my disability as an ability to be able to share that and not downplay it. And it doesn't matter what disability you have. It's how you get the people you are with comfortable with you, and they won't even think anything of it. And I'm not gonna put words in your mouth, but I have a feeling that might have been a similar-ish experience for you, or maybe not.
That is very awesome. I know for me it was pretty much kind of similar, but a little bit different. So I'm excited to share about that later on. Um, and I know you go through schooling. You obviously you have your I'm not sure if you do, but I feel like you have your degree since you've accomplished all these things. Tell me how you got into CrossFit, into motivational speaking, into all these ventures. How was it for you getting into these
So,
ventures for you?
so for me, I have such a great drive to be the best I can be given my abilities. And we talk about all good things start with you. It is all about taking action. And basically, for me, is I'm not gonna say I'm basically what I'm getting at is from the time I graduated Michigan State, I knew I didn't want to work for anybody because I grew up in a entrepreneurial family where my father he's an optometrist, but he's been an optometrist, for 45 years. But during that time, he would always try different side hustles, side businesses, and I was able to see that, and I kind of emulated that. And for me to have that drive, and keep in mind, the drive comes from me growing up with the hearing loss and having to overcome these objections and understanding that never taking no for an answer is very important because a lot of times when we hear the word no, what do we think? Well, we back up and we say, that's it. We can't do anything. No, that's a load of whatever. It's it comes down to if you want to get somewhere, you have to always be asking questions. So backing up to answer your question, doing all of these things is I got into CrossFit because I was training clients one on one, but I was looking for something that I could expand my horizons, and CrossFit fit the bill when I saw what was going on. I saw the green light. I opened up in my parents' two-car garage in October of 2009, and I had no idea, almost 12 years later, that I would be in a 6,000 square foot workout facility helping people look good, feel good, and be a better version of themselves. And I think because I'm not going to say that I'm easygoing, but I am easily approachable. I, I can empathize with a lot of people because with my story, even your story, being in fitness is when they see what you've had to go through, they say to themselves, well, man, if he can do it, I can do it. So, and I'm not like pushing this on people, it's just my nature of who I am. I love helping people. And my motto has always been if I can help one person a day, I'm happy.
Yeah, that is an awesome motto to live by. The fact that you've made it this far is obviously incredible. Um, and I know that your podcast, the name of your podcast, it really sticks out. I'll get things start with you. Where did you come up with the name and the idea? How did that become a part of you and a part of your audience as far as your podcast?
I love that question because, and we talked about this previously, and for me, the biggest thing that people I always gripe about is taking the negative connotation of when someone says no, we tend to kind of hold back. And for me, it's always about how can I get to that point. But what I'm getting at is if I ask you your opinion on something, and I ask somebody else their opinion on something, I ask a third person on their opinion, I am just gathering information. And then when I sit down and I say, okay, am I ready to make the decision? Yes or no? But ultimately, who makes that decision? You do. So I realized, okay, well, in order to be successful in any endeavor, it doesn't matter what you're doing. It could be personal, business, family, relationships. It could be anything. All good things start with you, allow you to, in your brain, say to yourself, okay, if you want something to happen, then it's up to me. And the reality is, now is the time to take action, not in 1 year, not in 2 years. If you have an idea, if you have a concept of something you want to try, try it. What's the worst that can happen?
Exactly. I can totally agree with you and relate. Um what's the reward if you can't if you're not willing to take the risk, in anything you do. And it seems like you've gone through everything head on, and even though it's been uh difficult in some aspects, you've still been able to find a way to adapt and overcome. There's always a saying that I always tend to tell people. It's improvise, adapt, and overcome. And obviously, you've been able to do all three things and become really successful. Um, and then to kind of wrap everything up, how can people find you as far as social media, learn more about you, and just get to know you better?
So for me, best way to get a go to my website, jordanlevin.com. You can email me at jordan@jordanlevin.com. My Instagram is Jordan Levin. Facebook is Jordan Levin. LinkedIn is also Jordan Levin. I'm quite accessible. If you shoot me an email, I'll try to respond to you. It is reasonable for you. If you want to send me a text, it's on my website. Send me a text. I'm happy to help. If you have any upcoming events coming up, struggling with anything, I have a program. It's called How to Develop 10 Good Habits. And the good habits, the number one most important habit that I practice is gratitude. Gratitude is the most important one out of my 10 habits, and that's what I've been co- coaching people on for years, is especially in the fitness industry, is how to be appreciative and develop good habits for the entire life.
Uh, I love that, my friend. I've enjoyed listening to your story. I've enjoyed listening to your journey, and you obviously, you're obviously a true example of if like I always say, with my slogan, if I can do it, so can you. You obviously have that. You've proven to people that if I can overcome these multiple impairments and all this in my life, then there's no excuse. You can do it too. There's people out there that have no disabilities that don't push themselves, yet you see people like ourselves trying to do everything that we can to become successful. So awesome, awesome story. I appreciate you being on the show. Thank you, Jordan. You guys can find this episode on iTunes, Spotify, any other major podcasting platform, and I also will put it up on YouTube as well. So thank you, Jordan. And remember, everyone, if I can do it, so can you.
Yeah, I love that. I love that. I love it. Great. Thank you. That was a blast. I hope we can do it again soon.
Yeah, for sure. I'm excited.
All right. So let's switch over to my questions for you. So David, not only were you born with CP, but you also experienced being put into special education as well as mainstream education. Please tell me and our listeners a little bit about your formative years because you've had quite a journey. The follow up,
Well,
go ahead.
my formative years were they were pretty rocky, especially kind of starting out in education. When I was very very young, until I was the age of 8 years old, I couldn't really read, write, or walk. Um, I kind of struggled, and as far as education, they thought, hey, he can't do any of these things, so we'll just place him in special ed. This was at the time where my biological mom was still around, so being that she was a very young mom raising two children, one of them having CP, it's not always easy. But I always had very supportive parents, and the part of my biological dad and my stepmom, who they both all three of them kind of work together to help me kind of grow and become this individual who has become successful, with anything, with when it comes to education or anything that I've always pursued.
That is, I appreciate that because we have the similarities in that aspect of having the right support system. If you have the right support system and being fortunate to have your biological parents and your stepmom to be able to do that, that's a very powerful thing because that you saw that and that allowed you to succeed. My follow-up question to that is, do you think your educational experiences as a child had an impact on your desire to become an educator?
Oh, for sure. I was always told when I was younger, you're never going to amount to anything. I was told by teachers directly in Puerto Rico that you're too slow. I don't want you in my classroom. He shouldn't be here. All these negative things, but the one thing that I was always told is you have to believe in yourself, embrace your disability, and just take all that negativity and use it as motivation to really push yourself forward. So I never let it bring me down, because the minute you let people bring you down with their comments and what they say is the moment you fail. You have to keep moving forward to win. That's all you can do.
I'm with you on that one. I have a very similar story. What I didn't mention before is when I was in elementary school, the principal of that elementary school did not want me in that school. And as you know how my parents said, no, we're not going to let that happen. So the truth of it is, in order for that to happen, my parents had to sign a waiver to waive the right to um, um, I could be wrong. I think it was IEP, which uh, basically had a specific program to follow. My parents had to sign up that we waived the right to do that. So that was allowed my parents to have a little bit more control of what I'm doing, well, pretty much 100% control of that situation. And as we talked about, it wasn't easy, but that's a very interesting thing because we talked about it. When we're told no, we don't know what that means. We just got to say to ourselves, okay, what's next? How do we get past it? For us, I'm not going to say, for me, I'm not going to say it came easy, but it just, I, I or you, we didn't let that happen. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, that's the one thing is when it comes to school system, th- they're great. Don't get me wrong. School is great. Everything about education is great, but sometimes you have those few rotten apples that you deal with that'll always try to bring you down. And the best thing you could do is just keep moving forward. Don't let their negativity get to you, and just prove them wrong through your success in the education. Through your grades, the way that you present yourself. If you present yourself as a happy, positive person, you can't imagine how many times I've had people that have been negative to me in the education system, and when they see me like so positive and happy, they get so worked up. Like they're like, "You're not supposed to be like this. You're not. You're supposed to be miserable. You're supposed to hate yourself, hate your disability, feel sorry for yourself. Why are you not like this? There is no reason to be like this.
I I love that. That's a very powerful statement, and that's the thing. We talk for us and for me. There is no normal anymore. There never was a normal, and too many people, especially the education system, have this what you call perceived notion of what we need to be, whether it's smart or physically active or it doesn't matter what it is. There's always this expectation that everybody gets compared to all these different people. But as we know, each one of us is our own unique individual. We have to find our own strengths within ourselves and highlight those strengths and don't worry about anybody else.
Exactly. I feel the same way. You just gotta keep pushing forward. Not a care in the world.
Exactly. Exactly. And it took me a long time to understand that last part of not worrying about what other people think and just focus on what you want to do and how you do it. So you mentioned your biological parents and your stepmom, but who or what was your driving force to keep pushing forward? Do you think that it's an attribute that it's a part of you, or someone or something instilled in you to have that?
Well, as I was growing up, unfortunately, I had struggle with a tragedy in my family. My biological mom ended up passing away when I was 8 years old, and then fortunately, something great came out of it. My stepmom, she stepped in the day of my biological mom's funeral, and she said, "This child has a future, and without me in it, I don't think he'll be able to live a normal life." So she took it upon herself. At the same age, she was 23 when my biological mom passed away, and then my stepmom was the same age. So at 23, she made the decision to take care of me, raise me, and to give me the life that I would possibly never have. Because as you know, to to raise a child with a disability, sometimes it takes a whole, it takes a tag team. It takes a, luckily with my dad and my stepmom together, who's fortunately is my mom now. I consider her my full mom because she's raised me for my whole life.
Right.
They both were able to uh, be my driving force as far as different characteristics. Um, my my mom now was always, she was more of the tough love kind of mom. you know I don't want you to feel sorry for yourself. My pity box is broken. You can do anything you want to do if you believe in yourself and don't pity yourself all the time. And if somebody tells you no, you just keep pushing forward. Don't let them bring you down. And that's one of those things that you have to and sometimes it's always good to listen to parents, especially when they're giving you good advice and to help you out in life.
That is so powerful because being fortunate to have that mom in your life to give you that tough love is astronomical. And I wish there were I wish there were more of those around for those others who are struggling. And I always tell people, if you can't necessarily find within your family to, to reach out to other people, don't be afraid to ask others for help. And I think that is something that people tend to kind of hold back and are afraid to ask for help. And I always say it's okay. Ask for help and it will help you get to where you want.
I definitely agree. As I was growing up, my mom would always be there, and she was there when I took my first steps, which was actually my biological mom's dream, was to see me walk. But unfortunately, she missed it by 3 months. So I literally walked 3 months after her funeral. But I knew that she would always she would always see what I was doing, and just I knew that she saw me walk. So I wasn't really too worried about that. And I'm glad I took those first 3 steps, because those first 3 steps defined started defining my journey, and where would I be today.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And again, it comes down to all good things start with you. You made that decision to take those first three steps. Now, that leads to my next question. How did you get involved in sports? You're such an accomplished athlete.
I actually got involved in sports while living in Puerto Rico at the time. So I started around the age of 8 with baseball. They didn't have a league with kids with different disabilities at the time. So my mom now, she kind of started this league along with several individuals that were wanting to partner up and start the league together. She started this baseball league, so that's how I kind of got involved. I was the poster child of the league, so everybody kind of knew who I was, and I kind of started that trend of bringing kids with disabilities together so that they can play sports. And the thing with sports and disabilities is it allows those kids that have difficulty being social outside of sports or any realm to be able to be social and meet other kids and have fun and be physically active and just be a kid, be a normal kid for once, and not have to worry about being judged. You know.
I you got a mother that is incredible, and I can obviously relate to that because we both have a set of parents that were incredible. I mean, now I can see why you were so involved in sports because you became their poster child. And once you became their poster child, you were just like, let me just keep going. Let me show all these people what you can do regardless of any kind of, mental or physical disabilities. And that's, that's incredible. Which my next question now is, how did you get into triathlons?
Well, I got into cycling, so to say. I got into that while I was playing baseball. I actually got into that when I moved to Florida, uh, which was about 20 or so years ago. I got into the Special Olympics, and I competed in Florida in baseball and in cycling. And I got into that because at the time, my idol was Lance Armstrong because I was a big fan of his. And then I kind of started enjoying cycling, so I kind of wanted to model myself to be like him. So being the competitor, the from the competition aspect of it to even wearing the same gear, the postal service gear that he wore, and then just hearing a story about how he overcame cancer was just awesome. And at the time, he was a big celebrity, so I always wanted to model myself like him. But at the end of the day, I wanted to kind of be my own individual and stand out and let people know this is who David is. He's a cyclist. He's a hard worker. He's willing to put his team first and just compete to the best of my ability. And that's how I've kind of won the three state championships that I've won as a cyclist. And I also became a Paralympic prospect. So back in 2011, so I had Paralympic scouts kind of see how I was, and they invited me to try out to the Paralympic organization up in Tampa.
Wow. And so I mean, that's incredible. The fact that you didn't let any of your physical limitations bother you, the fact that you, like, for both of us in that sense, when you see the goal or the end result of what you want to accomplish, you can kind of reverse engineer back what you need to do to be able to get to that point. I mean, the fact that you did that, that's incredible. Um, and so how important is it for those with physical disabilities to implement movement and exercise in their lives and why?
Oh yeah, it's to me it's extremely important because as someone with CP, if you're not physically active, the diagnosis actually gets worse. So as you age, if you're not physically fit, a lot of the symptoms that you have now can get progressively worse. So I kind of started working out at a very young age, around 14, and so while your diagnosis doesn't go away, working out reduces the process uh, de- of of decline on your body. So the wear and tear kind of slows down. And then you're able, as long as you work out, you're able to kind of slow down the process. And if you keep maintaining it, you have a better chance of having um, a longer shelf life. So you're not at risk of ending up in a wheelchair or developing some sort of you know another another impairment where it impairs you to walk or do your daily living task. So I started that because I had a out of around 14, 15, I went to a doctor, and at the time I wasn't working out at all. I was just playing, doing my own thing, playing video games all day, being lazy. The only thing I did was just play sports, but I wasn't really physically active. I let the sports get in shape, but I wasn't in shape outside of the sport. So my doctor said you have to change your lifestyle, or else you could end up back in a wheelchair. So that was kind of a wake up call for me, and that allowed me to kind of sit back, reflect, and figure out what I had to do to improve myself physically to where I'm at today.
Again, you're the one who took the action, you took your doctor's advice, and you realized that it was something you had to do. And I know it was not easy, and I can't imagine how many times you had to try any exercise or any movement to be able to do it. I mean, the fact that you're able to get out a bike and do that, that's quite incredible. Uh, that's quite incredible. What's the most rewarding part of being in middle school teaching?
Oh, the most rewarding part is when you hear students, they tell you thank you for taking the time to help them, for showing that they have more potential than what they think they have. Because uh, when you're a middle school student, there's a lot of self doubt. You tend to be, you feel like you're not good enough at doing something, or that a lot of your peers judge you a lot, which over the last 4 years, as an assistant teacher, I've seen a lot of that. But with the right mindset and the right direction and the right support system, especially if you're a child that doesn't have it at home but you have it at school, take advantage. Take this opportunity to really empower and motivate the student, and tell them that they're worth it, and they're appreciated, and that every little thing that they do very well, deserves a celebration.
That mindset, having that mindset and be able to teach that to the students is probably the best thing that a teacher can do for the students. So keep going at that. Don't stop. Don't stop. Keep doing it. How do you What do you do to unwind, to decompress with all the things you have going on? How do you keep yourself grounded?
I usually like to I like to be outdoors, whether it's taking a hike or just enjoying the weather. If it's not too hot, because Florida, we all know it gets ridiculously hot. It's like right now, it's like 100 degrees for the next week. And I just love being outdoors. I'm also a gamer, so I love to play PC and PlayStation games. I'm one of those individuals. And I just love hanging out with my friends and my family whenever I get the chance.
Wonderful, wonderful. What brings you the most joy? All the things you do. What brings you the most joy? What makes you happy?
Well, first and foremost, my family, and then that would be my students, especially when I get to see them every day, and I get to see them successful, and then interviewing individuals like yourself, especially on my podcast, getting to know your story, your experiences. I think that's the best part of that brings me joy, is just hearing that positivity come out of every individual I meet. Because there's a if there's one thing we have in common, is that we're willing to do anything to be successful.
That was dynamite. That was powerful. Last question, kind of a summary of everything, but what are you most grateful for?
My family, um, the fact that I'm alive and healthy despite the current situation we're in right now. Also, the fact that I'm able to entertain, inspire, and motivate a lot of individuals, not just close to me, but around the world. Not many people are in my situation. So I feel very fortunate. So I feel like that would definitely be it.
Thank you, Dave. Thank you so much for sharing that. I mean, hearing your story and the listeners and the viewers who are watching and listening, we've got a wonderful individual here in David. And I want you to know that between him, you, David, and me, between the two of us, we know what it takes to get things done. We know what it takes to inspire people. And and to summarize, David, it's just nothing is beyond our reach. That if you set your mind to do something, you can make it happen. So, thank you, David. It's been an absolute pleasure. We've been talking for almost an hour, and hopefully we can do this again in another year and see where we're at.
Definitely, I would definitely like I would like to for sure, for sure.
Absolutely. Thank you for listening. Please check out my website for more great content at jordanlevin.com.